Anthony Richardson, and you're listening to RosterWatch.
This is AJ Brown, and you're listening to RosterWatch.
This is Josh Allen, and you're listening to RosterWatch.
Okay, I guess we're live. Lisa, we're live. Here we go.
Okay, we did it. We did it. We're here.
We're just like, hold on, wait, are we live? What's going on? Like Lisa and I are texting. Hey, Alex Dunlap, Lisa Ann here for the Lisa Ann Fantasy Draft Show with RosterWatch. Man, so pumped to be here today. Lisa, I cannot believe it. I got the ultimate draft cheat sheet from RosterWatch in hand. I have actual fantasy football drafts this weekend, man. We've actually made it. We've made it back. We're here.
Oh, we sure did. We are at this time of the year where we're excited. It's all pure joy right now, though we are feeling the burn this early with some injuries that do impact the way that we're drafting and building our teams, and maybe even some dynasty team managers or some keeper leagues where you made the decision last month, Alex, and next thing you know, oh no, Hollywood Brown, what are we going to do?
Yeah, for sure. Well, hey, and listen, this is a big thing that you bring up as far as the injuries. And the good news is, look, we're keeping our fingers crossed, but our good friend, Dr. David Chao at Pro Football Doc, is trying to take some time off between surgeries here to come in and give us a little bit of advice. So not sure exactly when Doc is going to be able to come on, but our producer, Matt, will let us know, and we'll bring him on at that point to kind of grill him with some questions and really find out the details from a guy that was a 19-year team orthopedic physician in the NFL. So we're gonna have that stuff. We're gonna run a mock draft using the ultimate draft cheat sheet. Again, it's available at RosterWatch, rosterwatch.com/Lisa. It's the only tool that you need this fantasy football draft season, where if you follow the 3 simple rules at the top of the sheet of paper, an expert quality draft is guaranteed. And it doesn't have to be a sheet of paper. You could use the web one. I like to walk in there with my sheet of paper like like an old school gangster, and dominate the draft. And so that's again at rosterwatch.com/Lisa. Lisa, people have drafts this weekend. It's the second biggest weekend of the year. You've been doing cameos all day as far as these draft orders for all these degenerates out there that need to they just get so crazy every year about their fantasy drafts, man. It really is just a wild time. We're all so crazy about it. What do you have any before we get into some of these players, any just overall tips and tricks for people in their fantasy league, things that they should be thinking going into their drafts and ways that you might approach it?
You know, I will say I'm impressed with how many more 14-team leagues I'm drawing this season, which adds a lot of challenge. And I always make sure I give a 14-team league like, yo, you're taking the extra step to deal with the fact that your waiver wire could be trash. You're going to need to trade more. You're going to have draft a deeper team. But I'm also finding a lot of leagues where there is already a team named Hawk Tua. And I'm not sure if you saw the Hawk Tua girl actually threw out a pitch at the Mets game. I got to give this kid credit. Nobody has run with a short flip of fame for longer, and it's added a lot of laughter to be pulling these draft orders on Cameo.
My friend Scott Barrett on Twitter said it's super easy. You can just draft Tua Tagovailoa and TJ Hawkinson. And you can name your team Hawk Tua. So, yeah, certainly. I thought that 15 minutes of fame might have been up by now, but you're right. She's doing everything she can to kind of keep that thing going. Look, we have a bunch to get to. So we have our friends, our good friends and our coworkers. I guess they're our friends, but we work with them. Trash Man is not really that much of a friend. He'll be on the show. He'll be on the show next week.
Trash Man is like your best friend. Okay, what are you talking about?
Well, you'll see next week, Lisa. He's not the easiest guy to work with. We're going to be here for the next three Fridays, talking to you guys through your drafts and stuff like that, bringing you the latest news and notes. But Trash Man is at practices right now. Right now, he's at joint practices with the Colts and the Cardinals. He was with the Bears earlier in the week. We have some notes from him. We have Cody Carpentier that was with the Bucks, joint practices with the Jaguars earlier this week. Then just yesterday, got up there for Steelers and Bills joint practices. So some takeaways from that stuff. But before we even get to any of that, Lisa, I thought that the big news that I saw today, or I guess, it was last night whenever they said it at the press conference, but it came out today. The Chiefs starters are going to play the first half of their preseason game this Saturday. And so we're going to get to actually see like Patrick Mahomes on a football field, throwing it to, I guess not Marquise Brown. That's somebody that we'll have to ask Pro Football Doc about when he gets on. But we'll get to see Xavier Worthy out there and Isaiah Pacheco and Kelsey and just all the stuff for a whole half of football. What do you think about this? And I want us to specifically ask you about the running back Isaiah Pacheco. What's happening with this situation is, in previous years, Jerick McKinnon had been there to kind of siphon off some touches and some carries. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, a former first-round pick, was a player who, for a while there looked like he could be something, but he has just fallen off a cliff. They've been bringing in undrafted free agent type guys like Deneric Prince and they've been bringing in guys off the street to try and find an RB2, Lisa. And it makes me think, say what you will about Pacheco, and he wasn't like he was a big first-round stud or anything like that, but he was on the field for every snap with the starters last week. We'll see Saturday if he is. You got to feel like if there's no real competition for touches in that offense, maybe I think Pacheco could be a big value this year.
Yeah, and look, the trust is there as well, right? He's been working with Mahomes long enough now to have this, even though we may have been, I remember drafting Pacheco maybe 2 or 3 seasons ago in a late round thinking he was going to be like Kyron Williams was for me last year. And it was a year too early. Now the consistency is there. And I think, again, if you are not able to get another piece in that offense, you want a piece of the Kansas City Chiefs offense that is real. And those players are going to be got after. So I do like the fact that Pacheco is there now. Will we see another addition coming in? And if so, at what level of mediocre would that competition actually be for Isaiah Pacheco to change our mind as to how we feel right now?
I honestly think, Lisa, I kind of think the worst case scenario for them, or the worst case scenario for Pacheco might be just, McKinnon is still unsigned. I think just bringing him back because he's familiar with it. We've seen like he can kind of bite into it. So I would keep an eye on that. They really are recycling through some dudes right now. So, and we're also going to see some stuff that happens with, when we get down to 53-man cuts. There are always running backs who get cut that people don't expect. So I wouldn't be surprised if they added one. But right now, he's certainly seeming like a good value to me as far as what we're hearing now, just kind of news out of camps, what's going on. The Chiefs starters to play Saturday is sort of a big one. Cody Carpentier was at Commanders practices earlier this week, and he reported back that it's looking like a 60-40 split between Brian Robinson and Austin Eckler. With even in PPR, he thinks that we should be taking Brian Robinson ahead of Austin Eckler, even though that's not how the PPR ADP's average draft positions are shaking out right now. Do you think Eckler still has it? I know he's such a big fan of fantasy football, and he loves scoring fantasy points for his fantasy owners and stuff. But does he still have it?
I do think he still has it, but I do think he's going to temper it. I think he didn't want to be as much of a workforce as he has. I think he wants to elongate his career, right? Maybe we see Austin Eckler looking at somebody like Frank Gore and saying, I wonder if I could play that long if I played cautiously. A 60-40 split is going to be a total bummer in fantasy because we're not going to know where it's going to lean. If it was me, I would be like, okay, I'm in a new spot. I'm going to show my old team how amazing I am. But if it's him, and he's like, look, I'd like to prepare my body and take care of it long term, this could be the ideal situation for him, not having as much pressure. But who steps up? Brian Robinson gets injured. Austin Eckler gets injured. Can either of them really handle 100% of the workload?
Yeah, well, I think that I'd say that probably Brian Robinson is probably better suited to just because he's a bigger dude. I certainly think that Eckler at the height of his powers is more talented, but it's like Jack Witry says here in the chat, Eckler's slower than him at this point. Well, I don't know how fast old Jack Witry in the chat is. Brian Van Shake says he can't wait to draft next Friday. Brian, I would recommend going to rosterwatch.com/Lisa and getting the ultimate draft cheat sheet. It's the only tool that you'll need to help you dominate your fantasy drafts this year by following the 3 simple rules at the top of the sheet of paper. That thing is updated I've updated the PPR sheet twice today.
Okay.
I'm up to version 6.4. They get updated at least daily. So every bit of news that comes in, we got the news earlier in the week about Jahmyr Gibbs, had to move him down just out of pure precaution. As we got more reports, we've kind of moved him back up and up and up. Where are you on Jahmyr Gibbs, Lisa? Because if you look at the Detroit Lions this year, they're a team that all of our tools, the strength of schedule tools, and
Yep.
do you know that they only play 3 outdoor games this
Yep.
whole season? Their average implied team total is the second highest. Like if you take the implied team totals from every single available game, right, on DraftKings Sportsbook right now, and you just take the over-unders and the totals, and you formulate the team's implied team total for the week. The Lions have the second average highest implied team total. Each week they're implied to score like 26 points. For comparison, teams like the Patriots are only implied to score like 18 points a week. So I'll be interested. I'll be interested to hear what you have to say about Gibbs. But I'm getting the note in the chat that says that Dr. Chow is here. He's on a very, very tight schedule. So
let's do it.
Let's get him on. Dr. Chow. He's even in uniform.
Yes.
Dr. Chow.
Look, this mask is not a COVID mask. I literally see behind me. I'm in the OR. I assure you, there's no patients asleep on the table. There's
okay.
No
okay.
Right between, the changeover of surgeries, et cetera. So thank you for accommodating and working with me on the time. I told you guys I'd make it. I just couldn't,
Well,
I don't want to rush the surgery just to come on, right?
No, and by the way, Dr. Chow, we do not want you to rush the surgery to come on with us. So we do appreciate you've made this much effort because we've got a lot to talk to you about.
He's Dr. David Chow at Pro Football Doc on X, and you can also find him at Sports Injury Central, 6score.com. He's going to be talking before he gets out of here and on to his next his next job here about the sick picks that they have over there. 55% winners as far as against the spread over the course of the last few seasons, just based on they have an algorithm that that projects these games just based strictly on health, and it actually works. So we'll talk about that, and we'll also talk about the preseason injury guide, which I was lucky enough to get my hands on yesterday.
80 pages.
Yeah, I mean, I've already, Doc, like the insight that I've gained from you and everybody over there at 6score.com has already made a big difference as far as the way that we have guys slotted. So we know that your time's short. We're very respectful of it. Lisa Ann and I are just going to switch off from person to person and ask you about some of these players. Where are you on Nick Chubb?
Love Nick Chubb. Incredible athlete. This is a knee dislocation. As much as you say coach speak, and I love Kevin Stefanski and Andrew Berry and all those guys, they're trying to be glass half full and saying, sorry about that. Like I said,
okay.
the as much as you want to be optimistic, he's ahead of schedule. He's doing great. This was a knee dislocation. This was not an isolated MCL. Remember, he had 2 surgeries, an open surgery and a second one. Go back and look at the video. It's so graphic, you don't want to look at it. I don't see how he is ready to go. It would be defying odds. Now, I get it. There was internet video of him squatting like 17,000 pounds, right? I mean, whatever it was. Yeah. The bar was bending. But if you watch it, he clearly favors his left knee. He uses the right knee. He's strong as all get out. Oh, my gosh. And he's working hard. But that does not make a dynamic running back. I think it'd be great to see him back. I think it's asking a lot to see him back as Nick Chubb.
Fair enough.
Dr. Chow, I've got one for you who we were just talking about before you came in to join us today. Jahmyr Gibbs, how do you feel about this injury and how will this change through camp? How much time do you think he's going to miss?
Well, Lisa Ann, as you know, I deal on insider knowledge, not insider information. So I'm not calling the Giants head team physician who I know or athletic trainer, give me the goods. I go by publicly available information, video and other things to do the analysis. Like a soft tissue muscle injury, first of all, is training camp. There's really not any video, right? And severities matter, et cetera. Look, it's training camp. He's going to be sitting out. Do I think this is a long-term deal? No, but he's had some history, right? And so we don't even know if it's the same side. So I try not to guess. I try and be honest and say where we don't know, we don't know. We don't see this as a do not draft situation. But you know what? You might have to, and this is what we do at Sports Injury Central, temper expectations for the early couple of weeks and certainly week 1. So every week during the regular season, we will have individual grades, 6 scores, Sports Injury Central scores. So if you all are projecting a healthy Jahmyr Gibbs to get 18.7 fantasy points, if we say his score is 81, it might be 81% of that 17.3 or whatever you're projecting. And that's what we try and do. And then we have team scores, team offense against defense, offense run game against the opponent's run defense for DFS and fantasy and projections and prop wagers. We're information. I'm not a tout. I don't even do, look, I play one fantasy league, okay, just for fun, Scott Fishbowl. I'm not a fantasy expert. You guys are. I'm not a gambling expert, okay? You guys do all that stuff. I'm an injury expert, but you can take the injury information that we utilize from our 17 years of NFL head team position experience to extrapolate. And it's not just me. We have a panel of doctors. The only people that we utilize are people who worked in pro sports with pro teams.
Yeah, I should have mentioned that Doc was the head sideline physician and surgeon for the Chargers for, I don't know how long. Doc was, like 17 years or so.
17 years.
It was a long time. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I guess that's a big piece of his resume. I probably should have thrown
but
in
only
there.
the San Diego Chargers. I always want to say only the San Diego Chargers, never the LA Chargers. I get it's the same.
But. No, but you were in a totally different stadium. You weren't at SoFi. It's a huge difference.
Yeah, man. You can look up old pictures of Doc standing next to dudes like, Junior Seau and just like, Phillip Rivers and stuff. All right, let's see here. What about Hollywood Brown? I'm sure we did get some video evidence of that one, and everybody was real scared because he got taken to the hospital. I guess he's okay. Is he going to be okay?
I always say, judge the injury, not the reaction to the injury. And the hospitalization in some ways is a reaction to the injury. I'm not suggesting that the medical staff overreacted. They did the right thing. This was an SC, sternoclavicular joint injury. The sternoclavicular joint is near the sternum clavicle versus the AC joint, acromion clavicle. This is much more common. This is not as common, but it did happen to Tyreek Hill, Chiefs wide receiver in 2019. The reason for the hospitalization, there was no surgery, but you have to be careful. Sometimes when the SC joint is bad and it presses and the clavicle comes back and presses on the great vessels, you can have some unexpected bleeding, and that's a major vessel. So that's out of precaution. He's fine. It was reduced. Tyreek Hill did it in week 1, 2019 and returned in week 6, missed week 2 through 5. So 4 weeks out, but that was quicker than we expected. So look, I think that it is, not a guarantee that Hollywood Brown will play week 1. He's going to obviously miss some practice reps, and it wouldn't shock me if he went on IR for 4 weeks. If, he was still getting, it wouldn't shock me. It wouldn't shock me. So put that into your fantasy projections for the season. We'll have a week-by-week fantasy projection on him, especially as we roll closer. But right now, if you go to Sports Injury Central, we're downgrading him a little bit because you can't expect 17-game output right now. You have to temper it.
One more for me right here, Dr. Chow. I know you got surgeries to do the rest of the day. I'm looking at Phil. I almost went back to the Chargers, Phillip Rivers. Okay, so Matthew Stafford suffered an injury yesterday in a practice against the Dallas Cowboys, left practice early. What do we know?
I love Matthew Stafford, right? To me, he's Phillip Rivers 2.0. Rivers,
you're right. You're right.
I mean, they're pocket guys, great downfield passers, great teammates. I think Hall of Famers, but in any case, neither one runs a lot, right? But they're Iron Men. Phillip Rivers had the longest starting streak ever. Matthew Stafford, we've seen him limping through things and playing through everything. My biggest concern on Matthew Stafford isn't the hamstring. He's not going to be running or doing anything. He's got a strong arm. He'll be fine from that. My biggest concern for Matthew Stafford is his offensive line. Do they have enough on that offensive line to help protect him? And last year he was okay, but remember 2 years ago he had a neck issue, a quote spinal cord issue, and that's not something to mess around with. And as he gets older in life and other things. So my concern is the offensive line for Matthew Stafford more than his hamstring. And hopefully there's nothing that happens with his neck. But he's always as tough as can be. If he can play, he will play through. Maybe we'll do one more, then they're tapping on the window to
Doc. I mean, look, man, this has all been great. Why don't we take this last bit of time and you could tell them where they can get the preseason injury guide and what all you guys are going to be rolling out at 6.
So what we do with the preseason injury guide is just like what I said. We have doubts about the Rams offensive line. We have doubts about the Dolphins linebacking crew based on injuries. It's all based on injuries. So, if you're doing extensive research, I mean, look, Warren Sharp is one of my guys. I've been on podcasts with him. He's got this huge book, but he doesn't talk about injuries or current injury issues. And this is what we do. So 80 pages. You can go to sicscore.com, Sports Injury Central. And before the business guys start charging for it, it's free right now. So go get it. And then, if you're a fan of the Cowboys, just look at the Cowboys. Look at what my concern for the Bengals are. Our concern is not Joe Burrow's wrist. It's the right tackle and left tackle on their offensive line. And what you talked about earlier, and thank you, I'm not a tout. Yes, historically, we're 55.1% against the spread when there's an 8-point health difference. All comers. But look, we get it. If Lamar Jackson's not playing, Baltimore's health is lower, but that's a known quantity, right? What we love are the unknown quantities. I mean, did anyone really realize how banged up the Chiefs' offensive line was going into that Tom Brady Super Bowl? It wasn't really Tom Brady beating Patrick Mahomes. It was the offensive line of the Chiefs getting throttled by the defensive line of the Bucs. That's the hidden advantages that we look at right there. And from a fantasy perspective, if you have RB1, 2 running backs, or you're trying to decide who to play against, of course, scheme in the game, but it might behoove you to look at the health of the offensive line of this running back versus this running back, or the health of the front 7 of the opponent. And we have all that at Sports Injury Central.
All right, Doc. We'll go get those good people fixed up, man. They're definitely counting on you, brother. And just like we count on you for all the best injury information throughout.
And just for fun, I tweeted a picture at Pro Football Doc of it wasn't Matt Milano, but I just finished a quote Matt Milano surgery, distal biceps tendon. If you want to see it, this happens to be on a rugby player. It's not Matt Milano. I'm just saying it's that type of surgery. If you want to see it on Twitter.
I'm sure you get some takers on that, Doc. I'm a little bit squeamish, man. It kept me.
I put a warning on it.
All right, dude. Hey, awesome to hear from you, Doc, man. I'm sure we'll talk to you again soon, and can't wait to see all the great stuff that you guys knock out this year over at sicscore.com.
Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.
All right, there he is, Dr. David Chow at Pro Football Doc. Lisa, do you want to do a mock draft using the Ultimate Draft cheat sheet?
Let's go.
I've done 2 updates today. These things get updated all the time. Again, it's like having me, like having Lisa, like having Trash Man, Byron, Cody, like little angels and devils on your shoulder. They're going to be telling you what to do with every single pick in the draft. You cannot afford to draft without the Ultimate Draft cheat sheet at RosterWatch. There's a simulation that I started, and I wanted to pick from the 12 hole, because Lisa and I were talking about how drafts coming up, and she's doing these draft orders on Cameo, and you get a little bit bummed to get the last pick in the draft. And people say you want to pick first and all the rest of it. I'm going to show you how a pick at the very end, when you have 2 picks in a row and then 2 picks in a row again at the 3rd and 4th, you can have a really good draft just by using the Ultimate Draft cheat sheet and following the 3 simple rules. So Matt, it looks like this screen is shared. I never stopped sharing it, but I think I need you to put it back up. There we go.
Yeah, there.
So let's see. Now, I just have to go back to it. All right, here we go. So at the 112, it has this. And whenever I do these, this is going against the expert consensus at fantasypros.com, the average draft positions at ESPN, Sleeper, anywhere that you're playing, CBS Sports, NFL.com, all of them, right? MFL, RT Sports, and then the pre-draft rankings queues, right? So all that goes into the algorithm, and this is a simulation. Here at the 112, the cheat sheet tells us that we actually we don't have a choice, but it doesn't matter. These players are back-to-back. We're going to take Saquon Barkley and Garrett Wilson. Lisa, do you worry at all about Garrett Wilson and the fact that for him to be awesome this year and for him to have this kind of upside, Aaron Rodgers sort of has to stay healthy?
Yeah, I'm not that worried about it because we had a horrible experience with that first Monday night game for the Jets, Aaron Rodgers getting out there for 4 plays. But seasons before that, he's been able to power through. I do understand he is a bit older. Not all older quarterbacks will be like Tom Brady. I've got a lot of faith put into Aaron Rodgers this season and what he's going to bring out in his teammates.
We have here at this next turn, it's going to have us take. It's building a good balanced roster so far. Josh Jacobs and Cooper Kupp. Josh Jacobs, another guy kind of like Isaiah Pacheco that we talked about
Yeah.
earlier, Lisa. It really makes you feel good whenever you hear that AJ Dillon is looking better than the stud rookie Marshawn Lloyd, because you figured, man, if Lloyd can come in and really look really awesome, we kind of know what AJ Dillon is. He's a known quantity. He looked definitely a step slower last year. If he's ahead of the rookie, I think that means that Josh Jacobs is going to have a huge carry share.
Yeah.
This season.
I could say that as well. Yes. I like those two back to back.
Let's see. The next two, it looks like it's having a shift toward, gosh, I'm just going to barely miss out on Anthony Richardson here. I'd love to take him. But we're going to take Tank Dell and we're going to take Zay Flowers here.
A nice balance. Yeah.
We can start out. We can start with this build: 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, 1 tight end, 2 flex. It would work whether we were doing 3 tight ends, 2 flex, 3 tight end, or I'm sorry, 3 wide receivers, 1 flex, 3 wide receivers, 2 flex, 2 wide receivers, 1 flex. It all works the same because of how the sheet is built and how it's the architecture of it. So that's at the 5-6. We're gonna get those 2 guys. And then look right here, the cheat sheet brings us back. It says, well, you just took 2 wide receivers. We're going to take 2 super value running backs here, and Tony Pollard and Javonte Williams. Lisa, I don't know about you, but I don't understand how Javonte Williams, we're not seeing an ADP bump out of him when it's so clear that he's by far the way ahead. Is it just all the rumors from beforehand that, maybe he was out of favor with Sean Payton?
Yeah, I mean, that's probably what it could be. And I think we're, that odd recency bias thing we talk about, but we're going to see a big switch, I think, in about 2 weeks. It's usually the later drafts, the leagues that wait till like the first week of September that start making all of these very smart decisions.
It starts getting harder and harder, Lisa.
Yeah.
People get smarter and smarter. Yeah. All right. We're going to take Jamison Williams here, who's had just maybe one of the biggest stars of OTAs and training camp of all players with the way he's come on. And like we talked about earlier, we want that Lions offense. And then Chase Brown, who is looking like a 50-50 split between him and Zach Moss there with the Bengals. You can get Chase Brown a whole lot later.
Yeah.
We talked last week about Jalen Wright, the rookie there in Miami. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and take him as just a nuclear kind of handcuff option, or not so much of a handcuff as handcuffing somebody else's guy if they draft Devon Achane. And then we're going to go here with, man, Cody could not come out of Commander's camp saying enough things about Jaden Daniels, his rushing upside. We saw in week 1, it was a very limited sample, but gosh, does he look good. He could break fantasy if he hits. So we're picking here in the 12th round. We might as well go upside with our quarterback. So that's where we'll go ahead and go. And look, what we can always do here, take the upside quarterback. And then right here, we got 2 picks in a row. Let's take Darnell Mooney, who's definitely going to be Kirk Cousins' number 2 option this season. Yeah. And then we'll just take Jared Goff.
Love it. I love it.
Right. And so
I love it.
If Jaden Daniels goes busto, then it's like you just go to Goff. Like we said, we love these lines. So again, all I did was follow the 3 simple rules at the top of the sheet of paper. This was a random draft from the 12 hole, and this is an awesome team. This is Jaden Daniels, Saquon Barkley, Josh Jacobs, Garrett Wilson, Cooper Kupp, Tank Dell, and Zay Flowers. And then this is the bench, which is the craziest part. Tony Pollard and Javonte Williams are on the bench. So is Jamison Williams, Chase Brown, Jalen Wright, Darnell Mooney, and Jared Goff. So you can just draft a kicker and a defense, see what happens. They've only gave me a B+. I think that thing deserves an A+. But then again, it never gives me quite the grade that I think, Lisa. But and
some of my better graded teams at the end of the year didn't play out as well. So you can't really go about that. Scott Ulmer, a friend of mine in the room, says Chase Brown might just have a breakthrough season. Scott seems to have these little hunches, and I rock with them. So I agree with you there, Scott. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks to everybody for joining us today. Thanks to Matt Deutsch for putting this thing on. Thanks to Dr. David Chow for taking some time today. And just another reminder, rosterwatch.com/Lisa. That's how you go get the ultimate draft cheat sheet. rosterwatch.com/Lisa. Lisa, so good to be on with you today. We will be back next Friday. And That's going to
Yeah,
be
and guess what? Next Friday, the next Friday, you got me. If you want me for an hour, I could do an hour on those days. It's all. This is our whole lives are going to be revolving around that fight. Then, so I look forward to it every week. And yes, I've been reminding every single cameo I do to make sure they take advantage of the ultimate draft cheat sheet. So use the rosterwatch.com/Lisa. Take advantage today. I look forward to. Remember, I've been building a little wish list of the new people in here to put together a new league that I will launch in the next 2 weeks. So really fun being here with you and everybody in the chat.
All right. Awesome. Well, Lisa, thank you so much for being here again today. Always great. Thanks to everybody in the chat. And yeah, rosterwatch.com/Lisa. We'll see you guys next week on the Lisa Ann Draft Show with Roster Watch.
This is Anthony Richardson, and you're listening to Roster Watch.
This is AJ Brown, and you're